This video is intended to describe a rather high-yield, complex lightblade talisman named Celestial Illumination. Joining me today will be my whimsical stick figure chakra map for visual guide reference Q for different chakra stimulation points, as well as this lovely gold and white leather, which will eventually be installed on this section, which will basically be an insulation agent, which I'll describe in turn when the time comes. But as the foundational guidance of this blade banding seen right here, running with this primary blade band, going into this transmutation band, then recirculating like so, to this apex band, will be described first as the foundational concept of the recirculation of this entire platform in a perpetual circuit which vaguely resembles a figure 8 for instantaneous, full energetic recirculation momentum containment recirculated. I think that's enough circulation talk. So starting off with the transmutation blade band ratio, which will be of the essence for the foundation of this entire closed loop circuit's redirection of energy, starting off with hematite to be a very powerful iron-based grounder of all excess energy through the root chakra, and the earth stars into the earth meridian matrix for reprocessing. Which, of course, hematite makes for a great agent to take all other radial energies and make a firm grounding through the root chakra into the earth stars for continuous reprocessing, which will be very advantageous for the extremely high yield, complexive nature of this technically wearable talisman format of extreme high yield overture. So, of course, that plays for a very critical role in conjunction with smoky quartz as a subcapacitation of the transmutation ratio. Smoky quartz, much like hematite, carries the same energetic pathway stimulation by firmly grounding all excess energy through the root chakra into the earth stars and into the earth meridian matrix for reprocessing. So the two together in conjunction is what I deem to be the transmutation ratio that is of the essence for a very high yield grounding purpose for many aspects of this construct. And virtually all light tech construct will have a transmutation ratio for many purposes found in the matrix, independent of different primary focuses, for intrinsic reasons I'll mention right now. The aspect of the transmutation ratio is designed to just be that of a transmutation of negativity into positivity by both working in tandem to firmly ground all the excess energy through the root chakra into the earth stars into the earth for rapid reprocessing. That would be, of course, deduced to be rapid energetic purification dialysis. To consistently ground all the excess arc of the energy into the earth has its own merit of beneficence that is well notarized at this point. Then the aspect also of such a high grounding contingency is also a great way to work as a foundation scaffolding to indeed ground the excessively high yield device to bring the magic into reality, to indeed make the magic real for that capacity, which is its own merit, particularly as I discuss the very ambitious high vibratory yield construct before this video. This contingency will definitely shine in its obvious self-evident criticality for the functionality of such a high-yield device to indeed work as a very prominent grounder of the energy into the earth to tangibilize and make comfortable, of course, and feasible this intensively high-yield device. Then with the apex band up here, which is, of course, where the necklace is already installed, that is a leather string, is that of clear quartz to serve as a neutral subcapacitation accelerant of the energy, going into ruby, the quintessential famous, nearly deified root chakra stimulant mineral kingdom, to be a tremendous root chakra stimulant of great notoriety. Then clear quartz going into blue sapphire, ruby's perfect antithesis of the same hardness of both being a corundum family. Sapphire is an incredible window mental 5th and 6th chakra stimulant of royal notoriety. So the two of these together, of course, have their own legendary belief and faith in the human morphic field of humanity that is quite well notarized as being stones of precious nature. Hence, the acclaim and just quite simply the fame of these crystals are known by virtually all beings, not to mention even people that are not quite as enthused about crystal frequencies have heard of ruby and sapphire, naturally. So that'd be the apex band recircling, grounding back into the transmutation band seen right here, to of course run the current through here, to run through the grounding sequence of this closed loop circuit of transmutation seen up here and here, close the circuit with this lateral band and this lateral band as well. Then the primary blade band is quite exotic and quite high yield in design of a very powerful golden ray scope. Starting off with root-tilated quartz to be a tremendous accelerant of energy through this entire primary blade band, Rutilated quartz is actually, of course, quartz with bands of rutile, which is a titanium oxide that works as a massive supercharger accelerant or whatever the frequencies are running through it. So, of course, that indeed gives a very high yield broadcast through the ignition sequence seen right here, which will be further notarized right now. And what makes this talisman particularly exotic and very, very high yield is the primary focus of Libyan gold tektite, which is actually a very special variety of meteoric glass, much like moldavite, except it has, I'll omit the technicalities of its Libyan desert sand glass is its other trade name, but the fact of the matter is quite important and relevant here is also the capacity to be a very powerful fire elemental sacrum and solar plexus stimulant of virtually unrivaled stimulation mineral kingdom, in my humble opinion, that of the golden ray of emanation, as well as it being a tremendous gold ray stimulation of storm elemental composition to actually illuminate the entire chakra column in unison in quite powerful, provocative dharmic acceleration context. And so, of course, Libyan gold tektite was also utilized by the pharaohs of old to be carved into scarab beetles to be the central breastplates of the magi god kings of old to be the central badge of their offices, which has a very powerful Egyptian royal magi connotation of magical imbuement, particularly in this crystal. Then, to subcapacitate the Libyan gold tektite further, with the rutilated quartz, Libyan gold tektite is also golden healer quartz, seen right here. Golden healer quartz is a gold white light high heart source activator alignment of virtually unsurpassed power of direct clean alignment of the central sun of creation. So in a in a metaphysical endeavor, that's pretty self-evident in its extreme practical importance to have a direct source attunement frequency, particularly as a subcapacitation of a very powerful ignition sequence, that of the golden ray, with Libyan gold tektite rutilated quartz to accelerate the frequency. So, of course, rutilated quartz, Libyan gold tektite, and golden yield quartz is exactly in the same ignition sequence for the entire primary blade band until it goes in and grounds back into the transmutation to once again work as a scaffolding to ground the excess energy and, of course, purify the entire energy in a perpetual circuit as it runs its perpetual momentum of the figure 8. So, of course, that would be, once again, be a more in-depth description of the primary blade band scaffolding of this entire lightblade talisman that, I'll say it again for notoriety's sake, vaguely resembles a figure 8 through the vibratory ignition and through the scaffolding seen right here to be a perpetual recirculation of energetic momentum that is designed to, of course, recirculate with maximum efficiency of the excessively high yield composition of all these other exotic stones yet to be mentioned, to give a very good recirculation containment of this intensively dynamic construct. I think that's good notarization for the blade band scaffolding scene right here to give pretty good idea. Alrighty, so I'll go ahead and discuss this side of the blade band, and before I do so, all these other crystals that will be mentioned in this dissertation, of course, are grounded to a central primary wire of copper, brass, and silver to be a perfect output brass, intake silver, and earth band with copper spooled together to be the main vein of the construct. So with all these different crystals grounded to that as part of the recirculation of the energy closing a circuit, all these other crystals yet to be mentioned, of course, will be grounded to this frequency to generate vibrational compound interest. You can think of that in association with being organs of an entity, if you would, of this whole continuity vibrating a unified field all together in unison in this entire closed loop circuit design. So I'll start off right here on the side of the blade face of Larimar, being an incredible 5th chakra stimulant of great notoriety in modern days, of being a very soothing 5th chakra stimulant. Then, of course, lapis lazuli, a classic stone of ancient Egypt as well, and a very famous, world-famous stone of 5th and 6th chakra stimulation of window mental composition of higher truth. Then going into a lovely ginormous piece of golden imperial topaz to be a very lovely 3rd chakra stimulant as well as 4th chakra stimulant of the gold white pink ray of crystalline frequency as well as being a very powerful magnifier, intensifier of manifestation to be very complementary as a centerpiece to the Libyan gold tektite primary focus, which is that of very, very high yield manifestation capacity through solar plexus stimulation, which thereby confers this device to be very high yield consciousness assisted technology of dramatic celestial illumination archetypal designation. So naturally the name, of course, has literally these stones to back the concept in operational system. Then to the right of the topaz is sugilite, a very powerful 6th, 7th, 8th non-physical chakra stimulant of great purple notoriety, and has become quite in vogue, but yet has become rather rare due to the scarcity, net unfortunately, of this particular crystal. But it does make a very powerful violet ray psychic protection purification emanation, as well as a very nice clean resonant attunement to the Michael force, that of Michael the Archangel, which is obviously very advantageous in a passive wearable format as well. And speaking of seraphic natures, this right here is an amazing specimen of seraphinite. Seraphinite, obviously being a green ray crystal, has a very powerful heart chakra stimulation, yet it also stimulates the entire chakra column in unison from top to bottom, and works very effectively with seraphic force to dismantle any patterns of disease from top to bottom. The disease aspect is discharged very smoothly, very cleanly, to repattern the optimal dharmic blueprint wholeness. Then over here, another seraphic component would be infinitite. Infinitite's a rather rare variety of serpentine from South Africa that is very, very effective for being a full light body stimulant in its own right, and a Kundalini activator as well. It also works very seraphically to dismantle any patterns of dis-ease as well. In tandem, naturally, all these crystals work together, and I've already covered that concept pretty clearly by now. But the aspect also of the infinitite works to decrystallize habitual stagnation patterns, particularly of survival issues, scarcity, things of that nature. That makes it a very effective further clearing of the entire auric field of any crystalline stagnant patterns. Then right here is sunstone. Sunstone's amazing feldspar-based sun crystal that has a great stimulation of the sacrum and solar plexus in tandem. That much of a very much beneficent masculine archetypal energy, very appropriate with this very illuminating frequency. Then a lovely piece of Sleeping Beauty turquoise, old stock. I was blessed enough to actually been gifted to be able to utilize in here of that authentic, beautiful robin's egg blue from old stock, from out of distribution, from of course it was privately held for over 30 years apparently, I was told. And yes, that makes for a fantastic turquoise, which is another world-famous crystal of great notoriety, of powerful 5th chakra stimulation of earth, fire, water, and wind in unison. Then up here, I'll describe these little nodal points before I flip the talisman over to discuss the other side of the blade face. Right here is Tibetan black quartz. Tibetan black quartz is a very fantastic stone from Tibet, of course, that has a very powerful full light body stimulation from the entire chakra column, dramatically rooting into the earth, as well as dramatic expansion simultaneously, being a very powerful full light body healer and another master healer that works to bring the Om frequency resonance through the entire chakra column in effortless, perfected healing pattern. So there's a few crystals I utilize in its a trifecta or a trinity for master light body healing capacity, and I guess I'll discuss that next in the same vein of star argonite, seen underneath the Larimar here. Star argonite is a very fantastic calcium-based full light body clearer as well, from top to bottom, just like seraphinite, just like Tibetan quartz. So the three of them together is what I consider the holy trinity of vibrational engineering clearing capacity for full light body activation, as well as dismantling any patterns of disease that is not of the highest self manifest in that trifecta. I guess I'll discuss more down here before I flip it over too. So right here, this is actually a lovely piece of Lemurian quartz, the very base of the talisman. Lemurian quartz, just like quartz, of course, has associated with Lemurian concepts, as well as makes for a fantastic neutral programmable resonant frequency, just like the vocalizers, to be a very lovely neutral energy program resonance, which of course puts it further into the sphere of being consciousness-assisted technology to have the resonant frequency of the conscious self energy impulses actually run directly current in tandem with consciousness into the device to contain a charge or intention circuit to basically program the device to have a certain wavelength emanation in conjunction with consciousness. It gets quite meta, of course, and so I'll go ahead and just keep on going. So that would be this entire blade face, besides this section right here. This is a very special piece of Himalayan golden azaztulite, which comes from the Himalayas, as a very another homage of powerful gold white light source energy stimulation alignment. That is another dose of that source intended celestial illumination part of this construct. Then right here above the Tibetan black quartz mentioned is beads of cinnabar. Cinnabar is a very powerful archetypal sorcery stone device, I guess you could say, and it has a very powerful stimulation to the root, sacrum, and third eye as a dramatic way to burn off the imprintations of the false self matrix to put one in touch with their true magical nature, which can be considered truly the stone of the sorcerer archetype seen right here. I'll be discussing, of course, this whole section when the time comes, once it's all notarized down here, because this will be its own complex sub-dissertation as well. So this right here is a very special piece of quartz called fade-in quartz. As seen in the film, perhaps, there's many breaks and restitches for the entire structure, which means that vibrational mimicking of the structure of its growth cycle to have breaks and fractures and restitching has a tremendous effect on the auric field to stitch any breaks and fractures from the entire continuity of the fully functional healthy light body, which is its own quite powerful master healer in that regard, but also much like vibrational fixaflant, it can work to bridge any breaks in the auric field continuity, as well as work in tandem with other crystals seen here in the apparatus to ensure the optimum energy flow is being well soldered very quickly to the highest good of the wielder of this device. And since I'm discussing that notion, I'll be discussing the smoky celestial quartz seen right here. Smoky quartz, like mentioned right here in the transmutation ratio, is a great grounder of negativity into positivity, but the celestial format has quite the metaphysical ramification that gets quite complex to discuss linearly and coherently for easy comprehension, to put it lightly. So the aspect of celestial quartz has a very special auto-regulation frequency that works in tandem with one's higher self as a buffer, dimmer switch, or a regulator. So that ensures the frequency pitch of the entire device is in the most comfortable optimum pitch with the consciousness of the highest self of the wielder, based on it being a tool of magic or tool of vibrational potency, theurgy. That would be very advantageous to have the regulation for such a ridiculously ambitious talisman, truth be told, and the extreme complexity and vibrational output yield, to have a regulation dimmer to, of course, ensure the emanations of this are being comfortably resonated to the consciousness of the wielder, to bring comfort to the entire pitch of the emanation, make it very autodynamic and reactive to the most comfortable highest good in the situational awareness of the wielder when this is in play in moment-to-moment situations. It gets quite meta, so I think I did a decent job keeping it kind of simple. Moving on. Terminated next to that would be fulgurite. Fulgurite is the product of lightning striking sand, literally containing the power of lightning in a crystalline format, which mimics the power of lightning in the auric field stimulation with the full light by activation with lightning fast speed, as well as a tremendous acceleration to manifestation, traditionally utilized by First Nation shamans to intensify their prayers back to Creator for the benefit of the people they be serving, of course, under their jurisdiction as a medicine person. So that makes for a very, very powerful high-yield emanation as well. Then right here is Percelli Bluestone. This is the same stone utilized by Stonehenge, which is actually 400 miles quarried from the site where Stonehenge was. So, like I say when I discuss Percelli Bluestone, the juice must have been worth the squeeze to use some kind of high-frequency theurgy magic of levity to transport those ginormous megalithic blocks 400 miles away from the quarry site based on its lovely multi-dimensional piezoelectric capacity to be a powerful channel point and bring high frequency energy into reality in the British Isles. Hence, that has a little piece of what was utilized for Stonehenge for the megalithic superstructure that it is in the British Isles. So there's a little piece of that of course has a concentration of druidic conceptual magic. Then right here is a lovely bigger piece of Libyan gold tektite, just seen like on the primary blade band. Once again, a very fantastic gold ray stimulant that I consider to be goldavite as a fond way to approach it, which is like a gold ray cousin to the famous moldavite seen right here. So moldavite is a very powerful green ray heart chakra restorative mental dharmic stimulant, virtually unsurpassed in the mineral kingdom to a point of near volatility to the false self matrix, as it really shakes the pillars of heaven within the internal self and external self to shake off the false self matrix, put one in alignment with their divine self. So obviously, it's become quite famous on social media platforms for being quite the shaker and mover, aka people are complaining that it's been ruining their lives from this crystal, because indeed it does ruin one's false self matrix. So the big idea, of course, of employing moldavite with such a comprehensive reactive design right here, with this transmutation ratio and the stabilizers and all the buffers and redirectors of energy, is to, of course, mitigate the timeline whiplash growing pains as evenly and sufficiently as possible to ensure the transmutation and the comfort of one's high self manifesting is efficient and comfortable as absolute possible. Much like an analogy I utilize quite often is like ripping the band-aid off before you even know it's been ripped off is the goal with spirit tools in that capacity, to make it just efficient, comfortable, and streamlined. So beneath the fulgurite, as well as next to the living gold tektite, is also amber. Though not technically a mineral, it makes for a very fantastic filtration of negativity into positivity by having more of a solar transmutation of energy to turn negativity into positivity, much like the carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide process, if you would. And so that makes for another sunny purification agent. Then next to the moldavite is nickel-iron meteorite. So that legitimately is actually a space metal that entered our Earth sphere, which is pretty cool. That makes a very fantastic grounding feature, but of course it's a cosmic grounding, so it of course has a high yield of light by activation as well, and being a tremendous iron-based stone brings that celestial energy further into the root chakra, into the tangible realm, which is the whole prerogative of my life's work, obviously, is to make magic real. So grounding cannot be, in my opinion, emphasized enough for high frequency energies to make it real and to, of course, be a tangibility. Speaking of lovely frequencies of tangibility and cosmic origin, black tektite. Black tektite is a fantastic product of nickel-iron meteorite impacting sand. So that cosmic vaporization of the sand turning to glass, seen right here from exactly this mineral oftentimes, entering the earth plane, carries a very intrinsic, powerful cosmic jolt of energy, which is very stimulating from the entire Earth stars upwards. And so luckily it's a black ray stone, which also means that the vibrational induction of the foundation, raising the entire chakra column, is just that, a very much ground up raiser of vibrations, which is virtually a staple in all light tech varieties, based on that a very effective conscious way to raise vibrations very effectively, but once again, most importantly, from the ground up, to have the scaffolding of strength to intensify the higher vibratory induction. Then right here is a lovely piece of Brazilianite, a rather rare, beautiful golden, I almost called it cousin, the living gold tektite, golden crystal, rather rare from obviously Brazil. Brazilianite is a very fantastic complementary frequency to living gold tektite, hence the showcasing prominence right here. Brazilianite is a very fantastic solar plexus stimulant, yet it has a certain aspect of actually being an alignment resonance of old world third G magic, old world sorcery, if you would, what can be considered the time of Mu, Lemuria, Atlantis, of the old world of consciousness assisted technology, which is my life's endeavor, is to work in those parameters, bring it here in the 2020s, the time of this video. So that aspect of having that Atlantean solar plexus third G kind of magic right here is very advantageous for such an ambitious platform, to put one in touch, even in the subconscious astral muscle memory realms, of the old world magic that was well suppressed for at least 13,000 years now, according to our modern calendars. Then right above that would be yellow-orange zincite. Zincite, just like moldavite, is one of those extremely volatile frequencies I use very sparingly, without definitely with a very powerful contingency in mind, due to its extremely powerful fire elemental nature, to activate the root chakra, the sacrum, and the solar plexus in nearly unsurpassed force. In the mineral kingdom, it has hurricane force stimulation of the lower three chakras, which sounds great, but that kind of energy also has almost like a energy associated with the flamboyance, machismo of an 80s wrestler. So I use that very sparingly. It's really funny to put it that way. You can think of these ridiculous 80s like machismo wrestlers, like, oh yeah, brother, that kind of thing, is very much the energy encapsulation of zincite. So just like moldavite, I employ it very sparingly with most certainly a very tremendous contingency subroutine to get the most out of that intensive, ridiculously powerful hurricane force activation lower three chakras. That's very stimulating and very effective for clearing debris that be impeding the lower grounding points, scaffolding of the light body's fully functional healthy pattern. So that would be the entire light blade mentioned. And I will save the selenite here as well as the kyanites for very last as a capstone dissertation on purpose. So now I'll be getting to the section where the leather hood will be installed once this video is fully notarized, which will be akin to this, but obviously a very loose rendition for dissertation's sake, seen right here as a very loose wrapping kind of idea of the gold and white wind tandem, which is of course very complementary to the composition. But it serves a role far more important than aesthetics, because this leather right here, its first function is also an insulation device. So by actually wrapping this around this section, it will work to condense and contain this unit of energy. So the stray energy actually is contained for more efficiency through the primary blade band as well as the apex band seen right here. So it's far more than aesthetics, as the third time I've said that in one shot, because it's quite critical. It's not just for looks, that this indeed is functional part of the tech. So the insulation works to, of course, contain this energy through the entire circuitry, like I mentioned, of the primary blade band as well as the apex band. Also, B, it works as a color therapy resonance of having the white and gold ray being a very strong staple emanation, complementary to the entirety of the emanation of the circuit. And also, C, it works to protect all these subtle stones as they're obviously designed to be wielded and worn on the person. So that aspect also protects the stones. And also, of course, D, but it is a very nice aesthetic completion at the end of it that gives it a more finished, comprehensive completion to the construct, much like putting a hood on a car, if you would. It'll be something like that, but obviously the time will be taken to make it aesthetically pleasing as possible in that configuration. That's enough talk about the hood, so now I'll go ahead and get into the components. So I will go ahead and isolate these particular frequencies first to be a very comprehensive dissertation of its own right of the functionality and criticality of these guys working in tandem. Starting off with the jaspers and the agates. So jaspers and agates are the most stable vibrations of the color emanation as well as the mineral composition and the elemental composition in the mineral kingdom, where of course the terrestrial four elements are concerned of earth, fire, water, and wind. So the aspect of red jasper being a incredible earth root chakra stabilizer brings a stabilized earth energy through the entire continuity of the device. Then going into fire agate, the most stabilizing fire elemental stimulant to stabilize the root, sacrum, and solar plexus. Then going into, where is that guy? Gotta find him. Moss green agate. Moss green agate is the most stable water elemental green ray heart chakra stabilized mineral kingdom. Then right here is blue lace agate to be the most stable water elemental fifth chakra stabilized mineral kingdom. Then going in tandem with the lovely holly blue agate seen right here, which is a violet ray technically, even though the trade name is holly blue, a violet ray agate that stabilizes the 6th and 7th chakras. So when you take the most stabilized varieties of earth, fire, water, and wind, I know it's not the mess, I'm just, obviously keeping it loose here. You have the continuity subroutine of this entire device also running through the filters of the most stabilizing aspects of the Lakota medicine wheel of earth, fire, water, and wind, which is a very nice way to ensure equilibrium and harmony through, of course, wielding this very ambitious, high dynamic, high yield personal talisman of great intensity and great vibratory yield potential output, basically. So that's one of those critical contingencies to stabilize the energies of the four elemental spectrums. Then right here is ruby and zoisite. Ruby, once again, is the quintessential root chakra from the mineral kingdom, but fortuitously it grows in tandem with a lovely crystal named zoisite, which is green, that has a very powerful heart-mind coherence engagement. So the aspect of having the Gusto for Life ruby stimulant at the bottom at the heart-mind coherence makes for the grounds for a truly dynamic shift into one's highest heart-mind coherence self, but most importantly grounded and also with passion and enthusiasm, which makes it a very, very amazing crystal actually. Then right here is another stone of antiquity of great notoriety, aquamarine. Aquamarine is an incredible 4th and 5th chakra stimulant of the beryl family, much like emerald, to work as a very effective water elemental, cardinal, speech pattern, water elemental, heartfelt communicator, which is very nice, of course. Then right here is morganite. Morganite is another beryl like aquamarine of the pink ray, which can be considered pink emerald, and I'm sure that if this was discovered in more ancient times, this would have been a famous crystal much akin to ruby, sapphire, and emerald and diamond itself, due to its sheer intensity of being a very dense atomical structure of the beryl family of 8.5 out of 10, to be a very dynamic, intensive pink ray high heart activator of divine love. Then behind that right there, against the core itself, is actually shungite, quite in vogue in this timeline for being a tremendous 5G mitigator and transmuter negativity into positivity based on its carbon resonance filtration system it has by itself. Then going into purple fluorite. Fluorite is a fantastic crown chakra, particularly purple, crown chakra stimulant of order in the mineral kingdom, to bring continuity and clarity and cohesiveness to energy. So obviously, even a little dose of order with such a complex superconductor goes a very long way. Then next to that would be tanzanite. Tanzanite actually is scientifically blue zoisite, but it was, I won't get into the history of it, but essentially tanzanite is its trade name from Tiffany Co. back in the 60s. Anyhow, what's important, why tanzanite, of course, is joining this composition, is the critical function it produces of the impeccable 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th non-physical chakra and heart chakra stimulation of the heart-mind coherence, perhaps the most impeccable alignment of the impeccable heart-mind coherence of the human avatar in the mineral kingdom. So that obviously has a very special place in the arsenal of my light tech in certain employments, of course, and applications, because I consider the heart-mind coherence impeccability a core principle of true spiritual self-mastery, and of course true guidance through the heart's quantum containment connection to all of creation, and most importantly in connection with the conscious self. So that's a little dose of that. Then right there be prehnite. Prehnite is a very fantastic 3rd and 4th chakra stimulant of water and earth, being a tremendously potent Raphael the Archangel force induction, which means basically, in my humble opinion, it's a very clean resonant frequency channel to the Raphael force, the green ray seraphic force close to source, which is very advantageous as a background frequency alignment to have literally the patron saint of all healing in the seraphic nature. Even a small dose goes a long way in this closed loop reactive circuit. So that'd be everything on this side. So right here is, once again, emerald, the famous green ray heart chakra stimulant of abundance, unrivaled in the mineral kingdom based on the faith and notoriety placed into it, because of course what people believe is what manifests reality. So the faith believed in emerald is quite potent as a stone of magical abundance. In conjunction with peridot, another fantastic stone of abundance I utilize quite frequently, particularly for abundance platforms, them in conjunction, just like seen right here. Peridot is a fantastic 3rd and 4th chakra stimulant, which is what I consider to be the quintessential vibrational equivalent to chlorophyll, which can be leveraged and applied to a frequency construct, much like how all this happens is the production of chlorophyll. And, I won't get too far off track though. But the aspect also of that, it makes a very powerful conjunction of the abundance spectrum. Then right here is black obsidian, here from Mount Shasta, actually locally sourced about maybe an hour or so east of me, from a mountain called Glass Mountain, which is a whole mountain of black obsidian. So it's a Mount Shasta locality special, which makes for another, just like my course, transmutation negativity into positivity. Then right here is a special coated quartz called Angel Aura Coats, which is a combination of silver and platinum pressure coated to a quartz sphere, which makes for a very high angelic frequency induction alignment of its own right. which is very useful for the aspects of, I guess, mediumship with the angelic forces, to put it lightly. Then right here is... oh, gotta clear my throat. All this smooth talking. Oceanic calcite. So the aspect of white calcite is quite underrated based on its commonality and how available it is across the earth. It's not very quite metaphysically praised as I feel it should be, because white calcite is a fire elemental full spectrum clear of stagnant from energies from the energy body, which makes it very nice clearing capacity. Oh my goodness. But what makes the oceanic imprintation on calcite quite special is that literally the ocean has tumbled this for hundreds, thousands of years. Literally God knows the subject matter about that. And so the aspect of the calcite works as a indelible mark of oceanic clearing imprintation set in stone, running through an apparatus, clearing capacity of the ocean. Obviously, self-evidently, pretty handy, pretty nifty. Then right over here, this is a... oh, God. Make it behave itself. Okay, here we go. This right here is fulgurite, just like down here, another piece of petrified lightning to further intensify the subroutine of this engine section with the power of lightning. Pretty ambitious. Then right here is a very special pressure-coated crystal as well called aqua aura quartz. Aqua aura quartz is strictly the utilization of gold pressure bonded to a quartz structure to be a very powerful augmentation to a clear crystal. But what's cool about how gold was pressurized into, basically powder vacuum pressured into the blue here, it actually has a very similar frequency pitch to aquamarine, being a tremendous 4th and 5th chakra stimulant, as well as a tremendous imbuer of soothing, cooling energy, which is ironic because gold is pretty much the quintessential golden ray, divine father, masculine projective fire energy, but when applied to a quartz, actually becomes more like an aquamarine frequency pitch. That's enough of a, of course, nerd out on the subject, just because it's just quite interesting how the blue emanation has more of a soothing aquamarine cooling capacity, like Larimar, of a higher 5th chakra water elemental crystal, with gold as the agent. Fascinating. Anyway, I digress as usual in these videos. Okay, so that'd be the entirety of the engine, basically like the hood section, fully notarized, quiet dynamic, full balanced spectrum pitch device. So at the very apex of this device is a rather special set of components. At the very top of the wooden core, which I'll mention momentarily, is blue petersite. Petersite is what I consider to be Tiger's Eye's rather ambitious, aggressive cousin, to put it very politely. Petersite, being a Tiger's Eye cousin, has a very dramatic, intense frequency stimulation of the auric field, which has also got another name, Tempest Stone. So, the storm elemental composition of Petersite has a very dramatic third eye, solar plexus chakra stimulation, yet it also stimulates the entire chakra column as well. And like a tempest, it stirs up all the aspects of the auric field of the false self matrix very quickly, very rapidly. But also, of course, once that adherence has been made of stirring up the false self matrices that work much like malware for the operating system that keeps one's conscious self clouded from their self, I guess you could say. It also works as a powerful manifestation agent and also a very powerful, particularly in the blue spectrum range, powerful psychic stimulant, as well as even a precognition resonance for the physical conscious self, which is pretty fascinating. So it very much has a very Jedi-esque application for precognition. Very nifty. Anyhow, so the aspect of Petersite also, it works to churn up all the false cell matrices very quickly, and of course in combination with all these things to, God willing, mitigate the overture of the energy and mitigate timeline whiplash of rapid change. But that is definitely a tremendous dharmic accelerant in its own right. And atop of that Petersite is a very special little subroutine that is hard to see at this time in this video based on the leather cord, but at the center of top of the Petersite actually is a Herkimer diamond, faceted much like an octagon, which is really cool. Herkimer diamonds are incredible high spectrum of clear quartz that is a very powerful 6th, 7th, 8th non-physical chakra stimulant that works as a great accelerant to other high frequencies as well, which of course in termination circuit already does the job pretty thoroughly with high frequency inductions seen throughout the entire apparatus. Then there is actually a containment band around the Herkimer diamond of a very special blade band of Petite, clear quartz faceted right here beads to be the neutral subcapacitor of the energy of, most importantly, authentic white diamond. So diamond, the king and queen of the gemstones, being a white ray, 10 out of 10 hardness, is the indisputably the most precious stone in human notoriety. So that white diamond, even a small dose in a circuit, goes a long way to really intensify the auric field's full crystalline nature of literally 10 out of 10 hardness vibration, which can be considered a vibrational frequency talisman of invincibility, as well as a very powerful classic sovereign high-frequency induction of course, heart-mind coherence and the entire auric field in a white ray spectrum of, once again, 10 out of 10 hardness, carbon-based resonance. So, that's quite the special, opulent, royal composition up there. Okay, so the last remaining aspects to discuss the notoriety of this extremely ambitious construct is the wooden core, the selenite, and the kyanites. So the wooden core of this entire construct this has been fashioned around is actually from Sedona, Arizona, from my favorite vortice between Bell Rock and Courthouse Mesa, at one juniper tree who has become my best tree friend out there, I guess you could say. And so I've had the privilege of this guy dropping things on the ground for me so I can, of course, bring him back home to my here in Mount Shasta to sand into the core with the woodworking skills into the core of this comprehensive device to be a very purposeful foundation, to have the wood range grounding capacity of the earth frequency. Naturally, trees, of course, are very powerful sentient beings that always live a life grounded into the earth to be a perpetual draw of high frequency energy. Hence, the wooden application for spirit tools is a very big prerogative to actually bring further tangibility to the vibratory outputs of these devices, in my humble opinion. But what makes it special is that the Sedona energy has a very powerful high frequency grounding capacity based on the red rock in the entire area. The entire life cycle of this tree that grew this wood right here has lived in a very root chakra stimulating high iron base intake. So naturally the microbial intake of the iron in the area has grown in this tree in a vortice. So naturally this tree, of course, actually grows in a spiral because it indeed is a vortice grown tree, which is very cool. So that's the specialty of the core itself. Then I will go ahead and discuss the selenites. Selenite by itself is quite the master healer in the crystalline kingdom. Selenite is a very powerful 6th, 7th, 8th non-physical chakra stimulant of the entire chakra column, non-physical chakras back to one's godhead. So by itself, that's quite the advantageous concept to having crystalline vibrational engineering. It is a clean shot way to clear debris between one's conscious self and one's highest self in a two-way broadcast, which could be another critical spiritual endeavor of mastery, I'd say. And so the aspect of that high-frequency induction also makes for a very high-yield purification through the entire auric field, which can work very effectively to burn any stagnancies that would be compromising the operating system or the ignition sequence of one's healthy auric field, especially in tandem with their divine template. So that's quite fancy. But the aspect of where it really shines in any given spirit tool is this triumphant trifecta trio of dissertation right here. So the aspect of taking all of these crystals mentioned so far in a closed-loop circuit of roughly 43 minutes of me ranting to a phone by myself for this dissertation in a circuit, it can take all these frequencies redirecting into itself and purify all of the crystals together. It can also amplify or intensify the entire crystalline output. And also, most importantly, my humble opinion, is also bring harmony, equilibrium, and resonance and balance to the entire vibratory output. So you have the aspect of purification for the entire construct, the amplification, and the harmonization. As always, that is the grounds for the triumphant trifecta of what I could deem to be a very dynamic spirit tool in service to the wielder, in service to creation, essentially. Hence I do call them spirit tools, so they don't make me cringe so much when I say that. And then the kyanite scene right here have quite the ambitious role as well, which gets quite metaphysical. That's exactly why I usually save this for last, because it gets very rabbit hole territory. And so, yeah. Okay, here goes the comprehensive capstone. Black kyanite, orange kyanite, green kyanite, blue kyanite have very specific rapid transfer roles here. Black kyanite, so for that matter, before I discuss the individual kyanites together in termination sequence, Kyanites are the most rapid transfers of energy throughout the energy system, as well as through the self and also through other, of course, the illusion of separation right there. And so kyanites make very rapid, intense transfers. They transfer so quickly that actually stagnant energy virtually cannot slow down their vibratory emanation of negativity from any kind of negativities, which makes it also another way to be a self-purification agent for any device, to basically rapidly reroute and buffer the energy so quickly that it serves like another layer of etheric Teflon of any bombardment of negativity to be diffused out from many different directions, which I'll be describing right now. Black kyanite is an absolute staple in all light tech, no matter what variety it is, for many purposes. Black kyanite is indeed the most rapid grounder of high frequency energy through the root chakra into the earth stars, into the earth meridian matrix for reprocessing. So that also serves as a very quick surge protector, ground point, to take all the excess yield and make sure the grounding point, no matter the dynamic range of the recipient's needs, is ensured that the energy is grounding through as quick as absolutely possible, which obviously has many merits for high frequency wielding, as well as high sentient beings, who are the ones that usually end up under my jurisdiction for these devices. To ensure the insulation of high frequency energy is making a containment field to rapidly transmute so negativity does not stick to one's auric field as quick as possible. Orange kyanite is a rapid stimulant of the sacrum chakra to the highest configuration. That would be, of course, a very powerful bridger of any kind of gaps of one's true creativity in reality, which is a great manifestation agent, obviously, as well as a way to also protect the sacrum, which can be considered an intake point of receptivity. That, of course, in your gut, you can feel when bad things happen. That could be a contributing factor of the intake of the sacrum being compromised. So naturally, that actually works as another shield to the sacrum by rapidly rerouting energy that makes the sacrum impervious by constant redirects, basically, deflections. Green kyanite also makes for an impeccable heart chakra stimulant to one's highest capacity alignment to creation. So the green kyanite makes a very rapid transfer of energy through oneself to the ideal configuration and to that of creation, which obviously makes for a very advantageous another layer of this device's celestial illumination construct intention. Then right here is blue kyanite, the quintessential third eye stimulant of rapid bridging of the left and right hemispheres in perfect tandem, aka the third eye, by mitigating electromagnetic interference or ego-mind identity, blocking the hemisphere working together to have the prefrontal lobes come online, which of course comes from implantation and the human condition basically. So that'd be the four kyanites working together to be a very rapid layer of rapid transfer energy based in tandem with the higher self-resonance of the avatar in the 3D, wielded to the highest maximum to be, once again, another layer of etheric Teflon to reroute and direct energy so quickly that it has a very hard time being encouraged to stick stagnant energy internally or externally through the entire process of the Earth Meridian Matrix and through Father Sky. So Mother Earth and Father Sky is rapidly bridged and buffered, and I think the idea is well presented there. So actually the last thing I will mention is actually this talisman is equipped with its own set of focalizers. So focalizer crystals are usually exclusively utilized for lightblade wands to be a very directional focus once it's grounded into the primary wire that works independent of the recirculation to actually give the recirculation a focus of energy, which is, like I said, exclusively utilized for wands. But when it came to this very ambitious talisman, obviously it has such a high yield power plant that it can almost be considered a talisman wand to be worn on the person and perhaps even unequipped off the neck, and to be wielded much like how typically a light blade wand would be wielded to direct high frequency current, particularly, for example, ground the frequency of the tree right here to make the contact patch continuity and further direct and align the energy to a very high yield. So obviously most talismans would not be equipped with this, and of course this talisman is much bigger than most lightblade talismans because it's not made for a clandestine nature. It's made to be a rather ambitious high yield device of great opulence and very high yield potential. So that's exactly why after I mentioned that part, I discussed the aspect of titanium aura quartz as a backside of the Limerian clear quartz to be a further intensification to the focus. Titanium aura quartz is clear quartz with titanium pressure coated on there, which makes for a very powerful full rainbow light body activation sequence that actually works system with the entire chakra column in unison. But the big advantageous aspect of titanium quartz that has stood the test of time in my life's work is also the application of etheric insulation to insulate one's field to the highest premium to ensure that the high frequency yields basically of this device will be in the highest optimum, so other weaker frequencies have a very difficult time shifting the resonant pitch, which kind of like, you can think of it, I guess, as another layer further of etheric Teflon to insulate and shield the subtle energies of the entire auric field's perfected output. In summary, then, of course, clear quartz, being the very barrel end of the focus right here of the energy projection, would be the Lemurian clear quartz, quite specifically, would be the focus of the neutral progression focus of the energy. So clear quartz itself is a very neutral ambient frequency. It carries ambient charge through it very easily, as well as a great way to, of course, have programs or intentions stored in the construct, which is why wrapped into the primary apparatus to contain the circuit. And so that would, of course, be another further certification of calling this a device of consciousness-assisted technology, to have the neutral intention of the conscious self-wielder run the current into the construct to be the barrel end broadcast focus of the intention in a discharge, like so. That kind of like, for example, to have the concept right here with the clear quartz being the focus, to say the prayer, charge up the construct, feel the force, whatnot, and discharge the energy, like so. Much like a wand. That's how typically all lightblade, of course, actually take it back, all lightblade wands have that focalizer purpose for actually being a intentional direction of the focus, once again, capturing the essence of the closed loop figure eight with very faceted features and being the directional focus of this, once again, tremendously highly ambitious talisman. Alright, so after about 51.5 minutes, that'd be the entire crystalline composition well notarized for just a talisman, which is obviously very unusual. Talismans like this do not roll out every day. There may be only about a dozen of these talismans in my over 10 years of doing this that exist, because they're not, I guess, not called forth very often. But this is one of those few exceptions of this almost what I consider to be an invincibility master lightblade talisman class device. Roll it every once in a while. And so here's this guy, Celestial Illumination, to be a very dynamic, personable, wieldable, reactional device that essentially is a very high yield light body activator with many different facets to encourage the most ideal energy platform. Technically in a wearable device, even though it is rather large for what it is, but for considering its extremely high yield, jam-packed, balanced nature, is pretty small considering the condensed non-waste of space to maximize the excellence of this particular wieldable lightblade talisman. Wand, almost kind of thing. So it makes for a very dynamic heck of a powerhouse that is obviously by now notarized, a very powerful light body stimulant from the top to bottom in a very dynamic, rapid, fast-pitch way to be worn on the person. And the way the necklace actually, of course, is very long by design is to indeed be suspended on the recipient's sacrum and solar plexus, so encourages that high creative yield to make more or less an invincibility shield to clear away from electromagnetic interference, from bombardments of the modern day thought forms that would of course be compromised to one's spiritual integrity in alignment with their dharmic self, as well as the own personal ego mind and identity limitations, to work as a very powerful way to suspend the false self matrix from interfering with divine's guidance. So you can think of it also almost being like a high yield device like this. It's like putting on a costume, almost like a kachina. It puts on like an archetypal energy platform that will make a very powerful high yield bypass to the conscious self limitations of a typical human morphic field that called the human condition of imprintations, limitations, you name it. All these things are contributing factors we contend with as a human being in the 2020s. So, there we have it. That would be a pretty comprehensive deep dive discussion on one of the more ambitious lightblade talismans to pass into my hands into operational status and into distribution. And that would be a comprehensive light body activator that can technically be worn. Well, 1,000 blessings to anyone who watched this, and may the force be with us.